So we'll continue and have all of these 4 bolts removed. Now that the bolts have been removed, we will take the motor off the pump. Be sure to lift straight up. The rotor and impeller assembly will remain inside the pump. And once you've done that, set the motor assembly aside. Now with the motor out of the way, we can remove the damaged O-ring. We'll just pull it out. And also we'll remove the rotor and impeller assembly. Again, just pull it straight up out of the pump body. Now that the pump is disassembled, it gives us a chance to wipe out any hard water deposits or any other buildup that may be inside the pump housing. We'll just take a rag and wipe out anything you find, and just clean up all the different surfaces here and here where the different components will sit. The next step will be to replace the rotor and impeller assembly straight down into the pump body. It's very important that it is completely seated properly, or it could damage the O-ring when everything is reassembled. Now we'll take our new O-ring from the repair kit. Be sure to lubricate this with soapy water before inserting it into the pump. Once you've done that, place it inside the pump body and be sure that it's fully seated down just above the rotor and impeller assembly. Once you've done that, we'll move on to replacing the motor. Now that we have the new O-ring installed, we can replace the motor. It's very important that this goes on straight down over the rotor and impeller assembly and in the same orientation as before. Now with the motor back on the pump, we'll begin reinstalling the bolts to hold them together. We'll line up the bolt holes and begin tightening them. For the moment, we'll just make them hand tight, and we'll come back after and torque them down with the torque wrench. Now that we have the bolts partially tightened down, we'll come back through with the torque wrench and tighten them down properly to the proper torque. I'll have those values in the annotations. There we go. We'll be sure to work diagonally rather than going from one bolt straight on to the next. That way we have a proper torque across the entire pump. So we've got our first one, and we'll skip across. Got the next one. Come back to the side. There. And our final one tucked in behind the terminal box. We'll torque that. And now we are ready to go. We have a new O-ring to seal this pump. On a side note, it is possible to do this procedure with the pump still installed, but if it is possible, it is much easier to remove the pump and work with the pump shaft vertically rather than horizontally. This will make it much easier to be sure that you do not cut the O-ring while reinstalling the components into the motor and the pump altogether.